everyone. Hello, I'm back. I hope you're back. I want to see you here tonight. It's been an interesting 24 hours. I don't know about you, but it's been interesting for me. A lot of castings came in to my agency, so I've been posting things and getting people's submissions put together. So I'm excited about those. And I know I've had some questions that have popped up from some people within the group, and I'm glad to have them. Please bring me all the questions that you have. I feel really, really lucky that I have the opportunity, and I'm honored to be the one that has a chance to answer things for you. What's kind of arisen, and I know people saw it, is that I posted something that there's an event going on that is very similar to what I was talking about. And I found out even more information. I found out that they were charging $2,400 for people to come to an event and meet some VIPs from agencies and such. And I don't have a problem with all of those events. In fact, I do endorse one of them, and one of my people is in New York City right now, and we'll be meeting with Abrams Artists tomorrow due to an event like that. But it's also at a much smaller price point with a much bigger array of VIPs. This is one of those things that I talk about. It's comparison shopping things. Someone mentioned to me in the past 24 hours that they were working with an agency that basically said to her that unless she went to IMTA, which is the International Model and Talent Association, that there's not much they can do for her because there's nothing going on around here. Now, she's in Charlotte, and Charlotte is, several hours from me, but I've been booking a lot of things for people in Charlotte. So I don't know what they're talking about other than saying, unless you go to this big expensive event, and some of them are like 10 grand. Some of them are, 6-7 grand. So that's what they're trying to get her to do, and telling her that they don't have much else for her. So that's not okay. It's not all right. And charging too much. The one that I took Armand to, where he got over 40 callbacks from major agencies, and he's right now weighing between Abrams Artist and CESD for his acting, and between Wilhelmina and BMG for the modeling side of things. And everybody I took got callbacks, and some are signed right now with Crawford Management, who does videotape submissions, and the participation fee to go to the industry network in LA and meet all these VIPs, including the head of BMG, not the receptionist, not somebody who just works one of the local offices, but the head of BMG and many others, was only $1,500 or $1,600. So it's not $4,000, it's not $2,500. There's ways to make it less expensive if you shop your options. So I know a lot of people are signing on tonight who hadn't had a chance to watch my other ones, but were involved with this recent audition. If you really want to go to an LA event and meet people that are VIPs, talk to me about that. I do have a way to do that, but I will tell you, I'll be very, very picky. I doubt that I'll take anyone that doesn't have at least something on their resume built up already, unless I have plenty of time to really, truly prepare them. And I don't charge for coaching on top of the industry network fees. So if that's something somebody really wants to do, then let me know. No pitch, no pressure, none of that stuff. I'm not doing it. But today's episode is about the getting real in front of the camera, getting real in your auditions, getting real in a print ad or on a runway. This Get Real is about the artistic side of things. I have some people saying hi now. I'll put my glasses on and say hi to everybody. Hi there. I'm so glad you joined. So anyway, this is the Be So Good They Can't Ignore You episode, because if you've done all this work and you've put all this effort into things, when you eventually get to the audition, you need to be able to do it and do it really well. And some things that you're going to do as an actor are going to be cold read, and some things that you do, they're going to send you sides ahead of time, which are brief snippets of the script, and some things you do are going to be videotape submissions. But there's a very common thing that I see regularly, often, constantly. People are doing all this work and they're putting all this effort forward, but when they do, they still look developmental. And what I say to actors all the time is, I can see the acting in your acting. And you don't want that. You want to be believable. I want to truly, truly believe you. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that. The first thing that most people are afraid of and worried about when it comes to being an actor, though, a lot of the models that I have are beautiful people, but they don't think they want to transition into acting because it scares them that they're going to get the lines wrong. That's what everybody says. I'm going to get the lines wrong. I don't know if I can memorize all those lines. I am willing to bet you that there are an awful lot of song lyrics in your head at any given point in time. You know tons of words to things that you've just memorized over the years. So you tell this to yourself as if it's like this huge big deal, but it's not. I did post some commercial scripts in the unit a little bit ago. So if you happen to have got those and printed those out and have them next to you, what I'd like you to do is to start really, really looking at things. Instead of worrying about memorizing, why don't you try to understand what the character's doing, understand why they're saying what they're saying and why they made those word choices and why they're in that order. If you look at it that way, then it's going to come into your head easier. So what I recommend doing is print it out, whatever it is that they're given to you. And then if it's a cold read or if it's something that you want to memorize, if you go to where the periods are and make a line after each line where you're going to pause, put a line there and make it, a little bit longer than the sentence itself. So it's like this thing that you can, if you hold your script over here, you can see it really well instead of looking for a period. Because one thing people will do, other than sounding like it's reading fun time at the library, one thing that people will do, especially in a cold read situation, is that they won't know where to take their pauses and they'll run into the next line a little bit, or they'll stop the line too early because they don't know where to take their pauses and they're not as familiar with something. So if you want to learn it quickly, make a line. And then I recommend going and counting how many lines there are and what you actually have to do, because it's probably not as much as you think. And you get yourself all nervous and you get yourself all worried when you have really just a few lines. You can do that. So, okay, you start with a first line. And some people really like to, learn a word, add a second word, learn 2 words, add a third word, learn 3 words, add a third word. But I credit you with more intelligence than that. I don't think you have to do this a word at a time. I think you can do this a line at a time. If you look at the line and try and grasp the line and understand what the line is saying, I'll tell you something. They want you to get the lines as correct as possible. They want you to get all the words as correct as possible. But if you're truly acting and you screw up a word here or there, it's going to be okay, because they'll know that they're going to give you time to learn this. If they hire you, you'll have some time to actually look at the script. And then there's this other thing that you're allowed to do. It's called a blooper. Everybody does them. They expect you to do them. They expect you to have moments that are just not going to be perfect. And sometimes those are fun and they lighten things up. And sometimes maybe that's a moment of genius that they're going to want to use anyway. My daughter walked in again. See ya. Thank you.
Can I have the recipe?
Yes, go ahead. Okay, so pardon me.
Can I cook something?
Yes, Popeyes.
But what if I don't?
Okay, go. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so if you screw up a line in the audition situation, it's better if you do it and stay in character and keep going and build on it with emotion. If you do that, you'll be fine. So in your worksheets tonight, I wanted to make sure I go over everything the way I did. The first thing you want to do is mark the script. So in the steps to memorizing and removing the fear of screwing up, first thing you're going to do is mark the script. So put that down. The next thing I want you to do is to actually go line by line and ask why they're saying this. Why am I saying this? What is this about? What does this mean? If you don't know what it means and there's words you don't know what they mean, you've got to ask, because then it won't make any sense to you. But you want to do it line by line and totally understand it. Why did it go from this word to this word? Why did it go from this thought to that thought? I want you to bring that in and follow that word for word. Just go through it and understand the words. If there's something that for some reason, like you want to change the word out for some other word, like every time you try and say it back, you're saying the wrong word. I want you to really look at the two words. Like say, instead of, we just did this in a coaching thing just a couple minutes ago. Instead of saying, I got fired, or you'll get fired, the line was, you'll end up among the ranks of the unemployed. Now, why would they pick, you'll end up among the ranks of the unemployed, rather than you'll get fired? Well, let's think about that for a second. Why pick one instead of the other? They probably wrote it the way they did because it brings up a visual picture. If the visual picture is you among the ranks of the unemployed, that's a different thought. That puts you in this whole group of people who, might be tired and standing in line and trying to get a job, and they're all in their suits. Either that, or if you're thinking even worse, they're all in like rags or something. But it puts a very definite mental picture in your head other than fired. Fired is a different thing. So consider that. If you consider what it is you're trying to say and why you're picking those word choices and why the thought process happened, that's the next thing that you want to think about, is why this thought process. If you're really looking at the script and what you're trying to do, here's a great example. I have given people for years a script for Advil. And every time I would give it to people and have them cold read, most every time, people would say, I used to get these really pounding headaches. Well, if you follow the script to the end of the script, you don't have a headache right now. You have the solution to a headache. So why are you pretending to have a headache? You shouldn't be. If you follow your thought pattern, you're helping somebody else because you know the solution. You don't have a headache. You're great. You're fine, but you care about your friend. So if you start to really understand what you're saying, why you're saying it, that will help you memorize it a whole lot easier. It'll come into your head and it'll stay there because you understand your character and the thought process that they're having. So, okay, the next thing is, so now we're at mark the script as one, go line by line and ask why. The next thing is consider the word choices. That was the next point that I made. And while you're doing that, be human and have a conversation. That's really what a script is. It's a conversation. So make sure you do that. You want to follow the train of thought is the fourth thing. Okay? If you do those things, it's not going to be a big strain and a big stress in your head of, I got to get these words right. Oh, I'm so worried I'm not going to get it right. Instead, you're going to be this character and you're going to feel something and you're going to know what your motivation is and you're going to go line after line and know that you have to start someplace and you have to finish someplace and you got to fill in the points you need to say. What do I have to say? That's all a script is. So if you figure that out and you allow yourself the humanity to say what you have to say as a character, then you won't worry about the words. And if you screw those up, keep going. Very simple. Okay, so that's part of being better than most people on camera. A lot of people will be robot person. We've seen an awful lot of little kids go, it shakes, it shines, all different colors, red, orange, yellow, and green. Jello. You know how many times I've seen that? It's terrible. I've seen it lots of times. It's robotic and it's awful. I want to feel you. If we're in the entertainment business, we're in the entertainment business because we want to be entertained. And that means we want to feel something. We want to laugh. We want to cry. We want to think. We want to think deeply. So we need for you to help us feel. And that means we have to believe you, which means you need to feel too. But you know what? I don't know anybody that has one feeling at a time. I don't know anybody that has one feeling at a time. I have one girl that I work with, and she'd stop doing her script or she'd stop doing her monologue and she'd go, what my character was thinking was, and that was beautiful. That was a beautiful thing to say. but she always knew the inner thing that her character was thinking, not what they were saying, but what they were thinking. And sometimes it's more things than one. If you watch, The Proposal. The Proposal is a wonderful movie, but Sandra Bullock is playing what I call a CCCB, a cold, calculated corporate bitch. That's what she's playing, but she softens because she meets this family that takes her in, but she's been lying to them. At the end of the film, she gets up in front of them on her supposed wedding day, and you can see that she's portraying someone who's used to standing in front of crowds, that's used to talking and being a public speaker, and she's very good at doing that. But now she's going to tell you about how hurt she is and how much she loves these people. So that adds a different layer of things because she's still trying to maintain herself and who she is and her self-confidence as a CCCB, but she's got a heart and she has to admit it. So that gives you depth. That gives you a whole bunch of different emotions that you can play with. I watched one script where two guys were talking to each other, but the direction they were given said that they should be really not wanting to talk about this right now. They wanted to talk about something else. So we're having this conversation just to get through this conversation. I want this conversation over. Can we talk about something else? Do you see how that changes the way someone would talk? So brainstorm those kind of ideas. What's your character really going through? What are they trying to get at? What do they want? I knew a guy that was a career extra. He really was. And he did a monologue for me. And I wanted to see it. He had this big resume of little stuff that he'd done. But I wanted to see him be really, really good. And I was hoping he'd be really good. Because that's what casting people do. They hope that you're really good. They're rooting for you every time. They're not judging you. They're rooting for you. So I was rooting for him. And he got up and did a monologue from Brighton Beach Memoirs, which is a lovely Neil Simon movie and play. And when it was over, I said to him, well, why did your character just say that? And he said, well, my character wanted to tell my nephews to get out of the candy store and not get in trouble by grandma, because I'd done that as a child and I want them to benefit from my wisdom. So he basically regurgitated the monologue to me a second time. I'd already heard that. I knew that already because I listened and I'm not an idiot. So I'd already heard that. What he didn't understand was that the reasoning behind why he was saying this as a character is because he loves his nephews. So I didn't believe him because I didn't feel the love there because he couldn't even come up with the answer that I love my nephews. Why are you saying what you're saying? What are you trying to get at? What is it that's your goal? Are you trying to convince somebody? I believe there's 4 reasons why we talk at all. It's the only things we do. We're informing people, such as I am doing now. We're trying to be informative, or we're trying to be persuasive. That's another reason why we talk. Or we have to vent. There's something inside us that's just bubbling out and we can't stand it and we have to talk about it. That's venting. Or we're trying to entertain. We just want to be funny. Those are the only 4 reasons that I can think of that anybody's ever talking. Informing, persuading, venting, or entertaining. So if that's the case, what's your character doing? Why are they doing it now? What just happened that made them want to do this now? Now this works for even commercials, anything even small. If you look into it that in depth, it's going to add so much to your performance. It's going to add so much to your audition. And you're going to memorize your script so much faster if you think about all this stuff. And you can come up with ideas and brainstorm them and get that all done in like 5-10 minutes. And boom, you're memorized. You're ready to go off paper. You can do this. That's so much better. And it's so simple. So, here I am. I've got 4 nights of doing this with you guys. I've got tonight and tomorrow are my last ones. So I had a very limited window of opportunity to try and create some sort of immediate change in what you're going to do and the way you're going to do it and what's the eventual outcome, because I want you to be more successful than if you hadn't been here, if you hadn't had this conversation with me, if you hadn't gone through this. So that's my ultimate goal. You have an ultimate goal of being here too. I think maybe your goal is the same as mine. Maybe. So, okay, I have a very small window. And it's not going to be that I can turn you into Dustin Hoffman in a very small window of time. I can't turn you into Meryl Streep in a very small window of time. But maybe we can let go of some of the fear stuff. We can put our feelings really out there and decide what our feelings should be and apply the right ones. So we're going to talk a little bit about that too. The next thing I put down on my worksheets for you was to find some true emotion and understand the scene. You need to grasp the motivation of your character. So I want you to think back in your life so that you can fit emotions to motivations. I want you to think back in your life to times that you felt something powerful, something interesting, something different. I have one-liners, and we would backtrack a little bit. We what if to death all the time. It's what people do. What if the car breaks down? What if we don't have enough money? What if they don't like us? What if I win the lottery? What if they say yes to that job I just went to? What if we do it all the time? What if the dog died? What if? So we can what if ourselves into feeling lots of things. Lots of things. So take one sentence, one line, and feel it like my dog died. Feel it for a minute. What happens to your body when you feel something? I studied life coaching so that I could think about what emotions do to people and how we can control them. We can control our emotions very well, actually. We can flip them off like a switch. But most people don't own that as a skill set, but we really do. Hi, Alicia, you made it live. You know what? And I want to thank Ronald for being here every time. I've noticed that Ronald's on here every time. So thank you, guys. It's good to see you. But we are in more control of our emotions than we admit to being. And all we have to do is what if, truly. So I want you to go back in your life and I want you to think of some really powerful, really emotional times that you had and replay them a little bit. You know, we watch movies and we cry. I watch commercials and I cry. Publix, grocery stores, Thanksgiving commercials, which are probably right around the corner. If I see one of those babies and it's the family and they're all around the table and everybody's together and something always happens, it just reminds me of my grandma and I end up crying and it's like it's 30-second commercials and I'm a mess. Because what? Because I start thinking about things that mattered to me. I start thinking about things that touched me in so many ways. So if we want to do that, we can do that whenever we want to. But you got to kind of make sure that it's the right feeling. I had one girl tell me that she couldn't relate to a script because she had never been a mom and she was supposed to portray someone who had their daughter taken from them. And she didn't know how to do that when she didn't relate to being a mom. So I said, what's the underlying emotion here though? You don't know where your daughter is. Your daughter's been kidnapped. Your daughter's been taken from you. What's your underlying emotion? And really, we as parents know that if you're in a situation where you can't help your child, that helplessness is something that becomes prevalent. So, okay, if your character is helpless, when did you last feel helpless? We've all felt that way a little bit. So she said to me, I felt helpless when a friend of mine told me she'd once tried to commit suicide, but she hadn't called out to me when it happened. And she said, that made me feel helpless. And I said, okay, let's take that up a notch. Let's take that up to thinking, what if she'd succeeded? And instead of telling you that, she was really gone and she didn't reach out to you. How helpless is that? That's about as helpless as a mom who lost her kid to a kidnapper and can't find them, isn't it? So feel that. If you feel that, then she did the scene, and she did the scene, and then she finished, and she went, oh my gosh. She But that was really powerful and I never want to do it again. Well, you have to. Cut, take two. Sorry, you got to do it again. So how does that happen? That's the other thing that we do to ourselves. I want you to go through your brain and I want you to come up with these deep moments in time. And I want you to think about the feelings that you've now put in your emotional toolbox. They can come out and that you can use in another scene, in another place to make it real to you. Because that's what you have. You have you. And you are what you can apply to the job. And that's it pretty much. You have you to offer. So what would you do if that was your life? You in another life. Figure that out. Feel it. What do you do when you're mad? My brother Darren said, you know, when people get scared, sometimes they go like this. And I never noticed that. I didn't notice they went like that, but that was another observation he made. Pay attention to what people do when they're feeling different things. And then you can use those in your toolbox and it'll help you build deep characters. And we feel stuff even when we're doing a commercial. So apply the feelings, not the words. The words aren't the thing you want to worry about, feelings. Okay, so I want you to write down some brainstorming there of some memories, and I want to see that on your homework so that you can play with your own feelings. It'll be fun. Okay, so the next page, I made it a little different here. I put killer excuses. Killer excuses, and I started off with the I'm not emotionally ready excuse. What are we going to do with that? I'm not emotionally ready. If you're not emotionally ready to do a scene, I guarantee you somebody else is emotionally ready to do that scene. They're going to do it, they're going to nail it, and they're going to get the job and you're not. So what's the difference between when you would be emotionally ready and now? Is there something that's supposed to occur magically that's going to make you emotionally ready? Jim Carrey's been Jim Carrey since before anybody told him that was a good idea. He just put it out there and thought, maybe they'll like this. Maybe they like me. This is me. And he went with it. And we love him for it. But do you think he needed to build up to that? Because I don't think so. I don't think he needed anybody's feedback to tell him that was the right thing to do. I think he just needed to decide that that's who he was going to be. And that's what you need to do. So you're not emotionally ready. What's the worst thing that's going to happen if you actually delve into that scene as deep as you think it should be done? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? Are you going to lose your mind? Are you going to go crazy? They're going to lock you away and you'll never come back. You're going to cry and never stop crying? Of course not. You can make yourself cry. You can also turn it off and go, "Ooh, that was good. Did that really well." You can do that. What's so scary? There's nothing scary about it. What usually screws it up is people wonder whether or not they're doing it okay. Or they start going, I'm not sure I can do that. I don't know if I can do that. If you keep saying that in your head, then you're not in character. So put that away. Put that away. Your character's not saying that. Your character's not wondering if they're doing it right. Stop worrying about it. That's what's getting in the way of you not getting emotionally in depth enough to get it done well and beautifully. Emotion is beautiful. That's what we want to see. I want to see you. We don't want to see the acting in your acting. Okay, so I didn't have enough time to really work on my scene. How much time do you need? Really? I've known people that can walk outside the door and come right back in and do something. 5 minutes. What time do you need to work on your scene? Especially if they're doing a cold read. That's just crazy. The lines are there. You've got a cheat sheet. But you have to look at it, and then you have to feel it, and then you have to say something. You don't need time for that. You don't have to. Yeah, it's better if you go and learn it, really learn it so that it's in your head and you've memorized it and you've worked on it. That helps a lot because then you can put that fear aside because you can go, oh, I've got this. And just that, oh, I've got this is really powerful. If you can say it to yourself a little earlier, oh, I've got this. It won't take so long. So stop making that excuse that you didn't have time. You've got time. You can run it in the car. You can run it when you're sitting in the bathroom. You can run it while you're eating your cereal in the morning. You can run it in your head all the time. You can do that. We waste a lot of time going on Facebook. Okay, so anything. The other one was I didn't live through anything like that character yet, and I've already touched on that and how that works. I had a girl say to me that she was supposed to do a monologue as a stepmother, and she told me that she had gone in her brain back to a time when she was fighting with her boyfriend to get upset for the scene. And I had to question that choice, because turning to someone else for help, which was what the character was truly doing, is not the same as getting mad at your boyfriend. So when you're picking some memory and some emotional thing to bring up within yourself, make sure it actually applies and that it's the right corresponding emotion to what it is that you're saying and what your character is actually going through. And to think that over, because that's kind of tricky. Anyway, so I gave everybody the scripts and the commercials, and I want you to try and do this, and I want you to try and do it quickly. I would like for you guys tonight to look at those commercial scripts, pick the one that works for you, and do a quick memorization. Get it down. And if it's not perfect, I'd still rather see it, but stay in character. Get it down. When we talk as human beings, we screw up all the time. We say the wrong thing, we go blah, blah, blah. It happens all the time. And we just keep talking. So if that happens, just keep talking. But I want to see some posts. I want to see some posts of you guys doing the best possible job that you can at really putting some feeling into these commercials and see what happens. I would love to see it. So after this is over, I want you to speed memorize. I want you to get on your phones and get on your cameras and tape something for me and post it. Wouldn't that be fun? I think that would be fun. Hi, Shelby. Okay, so that's something I want you to work on. Now, I also wanted to talk a little bit about how to get real in the modeling business, because, you know, some of this is acting and some of this is modeling, and we're about at the halfway point of our webinar. And I think that that's really a good time for me to give away something again. I had decided that I was going to give away a private coaching session to someone, and I am going to give it to Kirsten Sakata. And her mom, Tracy, is on here. I don't know if she's on tonight, but I think she is. I wanted to give it to them because they were the first people to post their homework from last night. So congratulations. I'll give you a contact, and we'll set it up and have a private coaching session with me. And that's the second time I have given her an award, actually. I judged a pageant and she won it, and she got a free weekend with me too. So this is the second time I'm giving her some free coaching. I like her. So just want everyone to know, I'm sending out the Vogue subscription. So that's going in the mail tomorrow morning. So I've been giving things away. I hope that the Amazon gift card arrived in her email, but I think it did. So I sent that out too. So I've been doing a lot of stuff like that. Hi, Judy. So we're going to move forward with some modeling tips. Things I want you to think about with modeling. If you want to be a big dog, you got to run with the big dogs. If you want to be a Victoria's Secret model, then you should do what the Victoria's Secret models do. And a lot of them post about this. They have video of their workout programs and things they do to practice, and it's all on there. If you want to be where someone else is or accomplish what someone else has accomplished, the best thing to do is find out how they did it and follow in their path. You need to study, and you need to learn, and you need to choose good mentors so that you can find out how to get to the level of success that you're choosing. So with models, I mentioned Vogue. If you're a model and you don't have subscriptions to fashion magazines, and I know everybody goes, oh, but I go on Instagram and I look at it on Instagram. If you're looking at it on Instagram, you're also looking at a lot of wannabe models instead of the actual publications. You should regularly just get the publications, look through them, look at the pictures, see what people are doing with their posing and their styling, and what's going on today, and what's current and what's relevant, and what they're hiring for. If your marketing materials look like something from the inside of a magazine or something from the ads that you wish to be in, then you'll be more likely to move in that direction. So you should be studying what's out there. This is why I don't understand why everybody tries to shoot something that's like a concept thing and then they go nude. I don't get this. What are you selling? Because I'm not buying anybody's skin these days. Are you? I'm not. If you're selling like beauty creams or something like that, or it's a lotion for your body, okay, that makes sense. It's like perfume ads. They do those nudes. But I don't understand what all the nakedity is about when nobody's buying anybody's skin. So try and make the things that you do for your marketing look like ads. You're more likely to book them if it looks like something that they can imagine you in. So pay attention to your mentors. Pay attention to how you're marketing yourself. I want to bring up, there's some really great resources. Coco Rocha is my favorite model. And if you look online, Coco Rocha has a ton of videos. COCOROCHA, Coco Rocha. And she'll show people what her posing is like. She wrote a book called The Art of Pose. She's been really informative and helping people to learn. So there's a whole world wide web of resources. Start looking them up and learn from people who are really high up in the industry about what it is that they did to get there. Same thing with actors. If you can figure out who your favorite actor was signed with and try and gear yourself to being signed with those people, that's really smart. So, okay, pay attention to those things. There was a woman who was trying to be a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. That was her goal. She wanted to be a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, and she was over 30, and she was worried that she wasn't going to get in. And she tried out, and she failed. And then she tried out after working with someone who was coaching her to be a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader because they once had been a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. And then she got in. So what she thought it was her limitation wasn't really. She just needed better pointers. So when you're thinking about who it is you want to have a career like, who it is you want to emulate, then you need to look into whether or not they have anything online that talks about their career. People are doing this a lot. But when I think about Coco Rocha and how she was in The Art of Pose and made her book like that, when she was in, I think it was Germany that she was from. She was a military kid and traveled around a lot. And they had a way of hiring models that was called a pose off. And they would put her next to another model and they'd go pose, 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 pose. And she would have to do that. Now, she learned how to have her hands in Model C hand positions, which is the sides, not the hand, not the back. This isn't pretty. This isn't pretty. It's the side. That's pretty. So you'll see her hands looking like a dancer all the time in the things that she's doing. And that's because she did dance. So she took another skill and put it into her skill set. Smart thing to do. So when she's posing, she's able to do it quickly and go from one thing to the next because she already knows the right hand techniques. Now, I know I've talked about IS and C poses, and what are those? An I pose goes straight up and down in a photo. A C pose, the foot without the weight goes the same way as your head. In an S pose, the foot without the weight goes the opposite way of your head. So now that sounds like a really simple thing, but if you look at every pose ever, they all fall into one of those categories. They're an I, an S, or a C. So as you're now starting to think about, okay, I want a repertoire of a whole bunch of poses. I want to be able to go pose, 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 pose. Okay, think about the I's, the S's, and the C's. It doesn't have to be a big change from one pose to another. You can just pose and pose and pose and pose and pose and pose, 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 pose. It's very hard to hit the same thing twice because we as people don't freeze in the same way twice. So don't be inhibited by the thought of, what am I going to do? I'm going to wait for the photographer to give me direction. No, they hate that. They hate that. They hate that. They don't want you to do that. They want you to move. So pose and then switch, pose and then switch. Switch your foot, switch the weight of your foot, switch the tilt of your head. This is a tilt, this is a turn. If they have turn your head, tilt your head, you know what you're supposed to be doing. So if you start thinking about those things, I's, S's, and C's, you can do I's standing, sitting, or on a floor or the ground. You can do S's sitting, standing, or on the floor on the ground. You can do C's, you get the idea. Okay, so now that just opened up a whole bunch of possibilities. But now I'm going to even take it a step further. If I'm in an I position as I would be now to this camera, I'm not in an I position if I turn it. So that changes things too. Oh my gosh, I just suddenly have a whole bunch more poses, and all I did was turn myself from the camera. So I'm giving you all those ideas, but that's not even changing your hand position. That's not even changing your facial expression. That's not even changing the direction of your gaze. If you're looking at the camera in one shot and you look away at the next one, that's a whole nother shot. So pose, 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 pose. I make my models pose for 30 seconds. I make them do the click game for 30 seconds. And the reasoning behind this is 30 seconds isn't that much. 30 poses isn't that much. But what usually happens is about 27, 28, 29, when I get to that number, they start going, what am I doing? And it's really, they've only got like 3 more. They've only got like 3 more. And most of the time when they first start out, I'm doing that and they're doing really good. And they get to about 20 and they're starting to freak out, but they probably haven't moved one of their feet yet. Open your eyes, open your brain, open your ideas, let it all come out and start pose, 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 pose. Cool? Does that sound like a good thing to do? Coco Rocha has some great posing videos. Look at her on America's Next Top Model doing a posing demonstration, and that's a really cool thing. There's also, if you look up male Coco Rocha, there's a video of a guy who's doing poses one right after another. Just every time the camera clicked, he was doing it. And that's another thing. If you're going to use this technique in front of the camera, one of the things you really want to do is you want to make sure that you're waiting for the flash. You're waiting for that sound. Because if you did something brilliant and wonderful, and then you move too fast and they didn't get it, coming back to it is really hard. And you're probably not going to manage it. So when you pose and freeze, and then wait for the camera, and then do it again, pose and freeze, and wait for the camera, and then pose and freeze, and wait for the camera, pose and freeze, and wait for the camera. Make sure you don't miss a shot. One right after the other, and that will help you. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about runway and the other aspect of modeling. There's a lot of people out there. I had this wonderful conversation with a designer, and she said to me, why aren't the models being walking hangers anymore? Why is it all about the model? The model is using too much hip swing, and it's all look at me, and they're not looking at my clothes anymore. The designer was upset by this. Now, that makes sense to me. She's paying them. She's paying to be in the fashion show. She has all this expense in the travel and everything else, and now the model is trying to suck up the spotlight. That's not what it's about. If you look at the New York high-end fashion shows, it's one model after the other doing something that seems a little boring and repetitious, but it makes sense for what they're trying to accomplish. They're trying to accomplish people actually just looking at the clothing, not the models. That's why they all start to blur into each other if you watch them long enough, which I recommend doing. If you want to be in fashion shows, watch fashion shows. There's tons of them on YouTube. Pull up Fashion Week and look up New York Fashion Week from the spring one and the fall one. Look at it all the time. You could watch a show a day. And if you do that, you'll start to realize what it is that they're looking for. Now, it's real hard to critique yourself. Most of the time when models are trying to learn and they're trying to hone their craft and they're trying to work on it, they don't know of things that they're actually doing. I've seen this a lot. Um, I've known people that didn't realize that their butt was swaying like this, but it was because they were locking their knees every time they stepped. I've known people that didn't realize that their hands would curl up by the time they walked to the end of the runway. These things are hard to see when it's you looking at yourself. Now, you can film yourself, which I recommend doing. Film yourself practicing and then watch it back and see if there's something that you notice about yourself that you're doing that you shouldn't be doing. Designers don't like it when your arms cross in front of the clothing. I've seen a lot of that lately. There's too much arm swing going on in front of the clothing. You're cutting off the lines of what they want people to see. You're not supposed to put your hands on your hips unless there's a waistband to your outfit, because you're changing the lines of the clothing. They don't like that. They don't want you to do that. So again, that's about showing yourself off instead of showing off what the clothes are supposed to look like. So you've got to be careful, and you've got to think about how you're appropriately showing what you're showing. And there is a lot more freedom in a really casual, fun, local fashion show. And they let you do a little more, and you get all pumped up and a little happier than most of the New York shows. Okay, those are fun, those are great, but still keep in mind that your job is to sell the outfit. It's not to show off. It's not to swing your hips from side to side. The other thing that drives me crazy is pigeon toes at the end of the runway. The H pose, and I know it's hard to see. I should put my feet right up on the screen. The H pose is supposed to be 1 foot straight forward, as if it's pointing to, if you're standing on a clock, you're pointing to noon. It's going right to 12. Your other foot is supposed to go to the side with a bend in the knee. Now, if you don't do that properly, and you stand like this because you're putting your weight out that way, thinking that's correct, it ends up with you looking pigeon-toed. This is not attractive. Most of the time, it ends up making somebody look like they have to go to the bathroom. So don't pigeon-toe at the end of the runway. So learning correct models, poses, learning correct foot positions. And you should know how to do a right and a left model stance. You should know how to do a half turn and a 3/4 and a full and a Dior and a 3/4 and offstage left. You should know these things. If no one is teaching you these things, they need to. And you'll think, some of those things I'm not even going to use much. Those don't come up all that often. But you know what? They do. They come up and they come around. And if you do them properly and they don't give you any direction on how they want you to walk, and they say, oh, just wing it and bring what you got, work it. If they say that to you, then you've got some tricks up your sleeve so that you can show off those clothes better. And I've had girls that work with me, and they open the show, close the show, and walk the designer the first time they ever did a fashion show. Now, how powerful is that? If you walk in to your first model call ever, and the designer goes, watch this girl. I want everyone to walk like her. That's amazing. You will want to do every fashion show forever. It's confidence building. If you go someplace prepared to nail it, to be so good they can't ignore you, then you'll keep going. You'll keep trying. You'll be different. You will stand out. And you will have a successful career where you don't quit, because you'll love it, because you know what you're doing. And that's the important thing in this business is, yes, you can find the people that are going to help you, and you can get the coaching, and then you have to get there. And then when you get there, you've got to nail it. Nail it. Make it work. And then you'll get repeat clients, the people that ask for you all the time. And that's what you want. You want to get paid? This is how you get paid. You nail it, and you make everybody go, wow, she's really good. Even if they don't know it's your first show. After the show was over, she told them all, that was my first show. And they went, no way. So yeah, you can fake it till you make it, but you better be faking it good. Perfect practice makes perfect. Imperfect practice makes imperfection. And those imperfections in your walk and in your posing, as you're practicing them the wrong way, will become habit and second nature, and your body's going to learn them. And then it's going to be harder for you to unlearn them. So start paying attention to people who really know what they're doing. You know, you watch the Victoria's Secret girls on the Victoria's Secret fashion show, which I know isn't going on this year, and it's a big deal, but it sucks. But they're walking with their feet, one in front of the other, not a lot of huge crisscrossing. There's one in front of the other. And when they rest at their poses at the end, they're not settling into their hips. They're using a string through their body that holds them up like dancers, and they stay that way, and it creates presence. And they're sucking in their stomach, and they're tucking in their torso, and that is perfect posture. It's not sticking your butt out this way and sticking your chest out this way and then throwing your hip out. That's not perfect posture. Put your shoulders back, suck in your stomach, tuck in your butt like you're holding quarters in there and walking across the room. I don't know why people think that's so funny when I say that, but I really mean it. So do that, have control, keep a lift in your torso, just like dancers do. Dancers put a pole across their shoulders and throw their arms over it so that they keep their torso up. This brings presence. It's also good for posing. I can sit here or I can sit here. Now, that's being what I call hyper in the moment. If you're hyper in the moment, then people are more likely to pay attention to you and you're going to look better. And if you start looking at pictures and go, oh, she's just standing there. Is she just standing there or is she hyper in the moment? That's when you're posing. That's when you're on the runway and you're working it. So get your skill level up. Fine tune it. Pay attention to the big dogs so you can run with the big dogs. Be hyper in the moment. Bring it. I think that's all I got to say for tonight. That's my quick synopsis. I can't possibly turn you into Giselle in a night, especially in a half hour. And I certainly can't turn you into Dustin Hoffman or Halle Berry or any of those big names in a day. But I want to give you at least something that you can take with you and go, oh, I learned something. Oh, I'm going to change it. Oh, I got some new skills that I can work on. So that's the point of me being here. That's the point of what I was doing for you. Next episode is called Sign or Not to Sign. That is the question. I had to throw in some Shakespeare. Next episode is Sign or Not to Sign. And that is because I know some people, you don't know how to weigh your options. When you start doing well and you start getting attention and you go in there and you nail it and then they give you these offers and you go, what am I going to do with that? I don't know if I should sign this or if this is a good choice or if this is right for me. So I will be talking about how to make those choices from an educated standpoint so that you don't regret getting stuck with the wrong agent for a couple of years, which could happen. So we're going to talk about that and go kind of into the contract stuff, which may sound like boring blah, blah, but I'm going to try my best to make it at least somewhat entertaining, I hope. So if you have questions for me, like people have been, I've been really, truly enjoying the process of answering some of the questions back and being able to talk about it in a later episode. So if you have questions for me, I will cover them and talk about them in tomorrow's beginning of the webinar. So please return and show up and don't try to just watch the replay because I've seen quite a bit of that lately. And I'm not giving any awards to people that are just watching the replay. I want people on board with me and paying attention and participating. So I'm glad that you guys are here. I hope to see you again tomorrow. And gosh, is there anything else that I forgot to say? I think I did. I've enjoyed seeing you here and I will see you again. Good night.